Hi, today I thought I'd do a little music theory lesson, but don't worry, it's nothing scary. It's a very simple, but I think nonetheless oftentimes very effective concept. I'm talking about drop chords. Now, this has nothing to do with the build and drop in your favorite EDM banger, but with dropping notes in a chord down one octave. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to make a new synth here so we have something simple, nice to listen to, maybe a bit of pulse with modulation, filtering. Okay, that's good. Gonna make this longer, and I'm gonna make a 4-chord progression with just triads in root position. It's just stacked thirds. You can easily see that here. There's always one row of pads in between the notes. This one, maybe this one, and this one. Now let's have a listen. Now, what we're going to do is just what I said before. We're going to pick the middle note of the chord here and move it down one octave. Now, in the Deluge, that's really easy to do because if the scale mode is on and this is set to a regular scale, this is always going to be an octave. So you can just move this so this note is on the top row, and then we punch it in on the bottom row, and we do the same thing for the other chords as well. And here we've got our drop chords. Now here I am back to what I started with. Of course, we can do the same thing if the chords are not in root position. So I'll arrange them so there's as little movement as possible, which often sounds nice. So I'm going to move this down here. And this I'm going to move up here. And this guy I'm going to move up here. Let's have a listen. That sounds like something we've heard a million times. And now I can do the same thing here. Move down the middle note one octave. And I get a different kind of flavor for the chords. They're more spread out. Now, this is most often used with seventh chords because they're more dense. And oftentimes it's nice to have them a little more spread out. So I'm going to do that too. I'll hit the back button until we're back where we started. And I'll make some seventh chords out of this. So this is going to be a D minor chord. This is going to be an F major chord. This is going to be a minor chord. And for the last one, I'm not going with the G7 because it sounds kind of off in this context. And instead, I'm going to turn it into a E minor 7. So let's listen to our seventh chords. Now, there are different kinds of drop chords. They usually have a number behind them, like drop 2 or drop 3. What this means is for a drop 2 chord, for example, we take the second note from the top, this guy here, and move it down one octave. I'm going to do the same thing for the other chords as well. And now this is the same chord progression with all drop 2 chords. I'll move them back so we can check out the drop 3 as well. So for this, I'm going to take the third note from the top and move it down one octave. Or a second from the bottom, I mean, same. And this is what drop 3 sounds like. I don't like the sound of that, so I'll put it back. Now, drop chords don't necessarily always sound good. Like in this case, it's not the best option, but still, it's a nice concept to generate some new flavors and move the notes in your chord around a little bit if you're not happy with how it sounds. In general, I think it's safe to say the lower your chord is, the better it is to have the notes as far apart from each other as possible. So stay away from close position chords when they're really low. Up high, it's not a big deal. You can really have them notes super close together. So yeah, I'm going to go back to the drop 2 because I liked how that sounded. What's nice here is that on the for the bottom notes, we get this nice down, up movement. So I think that's the reason why this sounds kind of cool. Now, if you still want to have your chords in root position, just add a bass line. I'm going to do that here. Make a new synth here as well and do something similar as before, so it doesn't sound all different. Maybe add a sub-octave. Add pulse width modulation to this guy too and mix it in. And maybe we go lower here. So our roots were D, F, A, and then E. Add some saturation to this to make it louder. Now, of course, at the end of the day, it's always best not to stick to a rule, but just to make sure things sound the way you want them to sound. So we can change things up here if you want to, especially since we have a bass line now. We really don't need the root notes of the chords in here. So this D, for example, can see what the E sounds like here. Or the G. This is nice because I can leave it here. This can go all the way. That's also, I mean, that's a different topic, but it's oftentimes nice to have just one note that stays the same all the time. So yeah, this is how drop chords work. Of course, the same concept applies also if you have more than 4 notes in a chord. If you have 5 notes, you can do drop 2, drop 3, drop 4, and so on. Dropping the top or the bottom note isn't really a drop chord. If you drop the top note, this just gives you an inversion of what you already had. And if you drop the bottom note, you get just the bass 1 octave lower. As one last note, I want to say oftentimes I think it's just best to not have too many notes in a chord anyways, especially when it comes to more complex synth sounds with fifths and stuff in there. It just gets real mushy, and it's best to just have a bass line and maybe a couple of notes, and that already gives you really nice chord progressions. So I'm going to play around with this a little more. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks a lot for watching.